Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Rebecca and on this channel I go through all things accounting, finance, Excel and investment related, so if you do like this kind of content then please do consider subscribing, and otherwise I'm going to jump straight into today's video. So as you can already hear, I not quite got rid of this croak that's going on since the cold that I had in November, so I've got my nice cup of coffee in my Christmas cup to try and help me get through the video. So in today's video, what we're going to talk about is the questions that you've asked me, either on Facebook or on YouTube via the comments, and hopefully I'm going to answer quite a few of those questions for you today. So let's just get my phone up here. Okay, so I found it. So question number one is, hello Rebecca, I was wondering what qualifications it is relevant to when you finish AAT level 2, level 3 and level 4. Is this equivalent to a university degree, or is it a lower qualification and have to do CIMA or ACCA to become a chartered accountant and start working? So with this, you don't have to study ACCA, CIMA, CIPFA, any of the professional qualifications to become an accountant. You can complete the AAT level 4, which is the equivalent to a diploma. So you can start work at AAT level 2, but if you finish the AAT level 4 diploma, then you are AAT qualified. So you can make a very good career out of being AAT qualified and become MAAT, which is just a member of the AAT. And there's quite a few individuals that I've worked with previously who are in very senior positions, having obtained the AAT and not studied further. So you definitely don't need to study one of the higher qualifications to start working as an accountant. However, if you want to become a chartered accountant, then you definitely do need to study the ACCA or ACCA, for example, as that's the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants and also the Association of Chartered Accountants. So let's move on to question 2. So, is the AAT alone enough to get a good job in the future, or would I have to do ACCA as well? So I touched on that slightly with question 1. So I think I'm going to turn that question back on its head. What you need to ask yourself is where you want to be. So do you want to be working within financial reporting? Do you want to be working within management accounting? Do you want to be head of finance one day, finance controller, or do you want to be the group management accountant, for example? So it just depends entirely what you want to do with your career, and that will ultimately help you to decide what qualification you want to take in future, if at all. Now, individuals who have ACCA, ACA, CIMA, etc. are often in senior management. However, as I stated before, I do know a good number of individuals who have the MAAT, who are in very senior positions, didn't study any further, or even are qualified by experience without the AAT. So I don't think that you need the ACCA or ACA, CIMA, CIPFA, etc. to get a good job in the future, but I think it does help because what they cover in the ACCA and what they cover in CIMA and ACA, etc. can be a little bit more technical and just give you those additional tools that you need when dealing with high level analysis, etc. So I think it's beneficial to have those qualifications, but you definitely don't need those qualifications to get a good job in future. What I'll say to that as well is that it's a good idea to go ahead and check on the likes of Reed, Indeed and employers' websites to see if they actually require the ACCA for a certain position, because if they do, then that again will give you a good indication of whether or not that employer feels that having the ACCA is a benefit over not having the ACCA. So I hope that answers that question for you. Okay, so the third question I've received here is, I would like to start distance learning AAT level 2, but I struggle with choosing the right training provider. Please can you recommend? So there are a number of different training providers that you can go to study AAT. Now personally I actually studied in a classroom under the Kaplan syllabus at both AAT and ACA, but in terms of distance learning providers, there's always Eagle, and there's also First Intuition, Osborne, who are all really good providers, and there's also the likes of Premier Training who are really good as well. I'd recommend all of those if you're looking to study. The AAT is distance learning, but again it comes down really to your personal style, because I think with some of those distance learning providers, there's different online training that you can select. So you could select very minimal input from their side where you're entirely learning on your own, or there's options to pay a little bit more where you can have a tutor, a one-to-one tutor online. Alternatively, you can also have all of your books online, for instance, so all of your working materials online, your workbook, the training guidance, etc. Or you can have those in paperback format, but again, it depends on the actual training provider themselves if they provide those services. So I think all of the above are worth having a look, but it does, I would say, depend on your particular learning style and what type of distance learning you'd like to undertake for the AAT. So let's have a look at question 4. I'm currently studying for a degree in accounting and finance. From your informative video, I just realised you don't really need to go to university, so what is the point in getting a degree? So whilst you don't necessarily need to go to university, some individuals do prefer to go to university and then study the likes of ACCA, ACCA, CIMA, etc. So one route you can go down when you're learning accounting and you want a job and career in accounting and finances, you can either study the likes of AAT or another recognised qualification before you go on to study ACCA, CIMA, CIPFA, etc. Or you can go to university and then go ahead and study ACCA, CIMA, CIPFA, and any of the other senior professional qualifications. So again, whilst you don't necessarily need to go ahead and study at university to do that, sometimes studying at university does give you additional skills that you might not obtain while studying the likes of AAT. Equally, the AAT gives you skills that university might not necessarily also. So I think it just depends on your, again, particular learning style, what you want to do. Do you want to go to university, or are you happy going down the AAT route? I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. I think, again, it just depends on what you really want to do. But just know that your options are open, so you can study AAT and then go on to the senior professional qualifications, or you can go down the university route and then study the senior professional qualifications. But I'll put a link to a video up here, if I remember, which should help you a little bit more with making that decision, hopefully. Okay, so next question. Is there a way of remembering which accounts form part of the income statement and which form part of the balance sheet? The easiest way of remembering is really to sort of take a step back. So take a step back from the material that you're looking at in terms of trying to remember this, and try and think of as a business owner would. So in terms of items that come on the income statement or the statement of profit and loss, you're going to be looking at the likes of obviously revenue, profit on disposal, admin costs, so wages costs, postage costs, carrier costs, etc. You're also going to have cost of sales. So when you're trying to determine what your net profit is, think of this as though, you know, what costs has a business incurred in that period and what income have they received in that period, and that might help you to pick up on what's classified in the income statement versus the balance sheet or statement of financial position. Now, those items that are on the statement of financial position are going to be your assets, liabilities and equity. So assets are the likes of, say, land and buildings, plant and machinery, motor vehicles, etc. And you're also going to have assets like debtors, so you're going to have trade debtors, you can have prepayments, etc. So money that's due to the company. You're going to have liabilities, so money that's due to go out to creditors. You might have accruals for costs that you've not yet received, for example. You might have the likes of VAT owed to HMRC, and you're also going to have any input from the directors. So if there's a director that has introduced capital into the business, for example, or if there's a director's loan account, so where the director owes the business money, for example, that's going to be on the statement of financial position. Likes of shares and share premium are going to be on the statement of financial position or balance sheet. So I hope that helps answer that question a little bit better, but I can again put a video together just to help you with remembering that. But I don't think there's any particular fast and easy way of remembering. I think a lot of it comes down to practice. And I say that's true for a lot of the AAT. If you're struggling with a certain topic, a lot of the time it's practice and also taking a step back and thinking practically, well, why is that? to anyone who's studying the AAT, it helps if you take a step back and have a look at what the study books are trying to tell you. So a lot of the time students will look at a page and look at the theory and remember the theory, which is great, but what you want to be able to do is translate that into a real business scenario, so that when you finish AAT, or as you're studying AAT, you can put that theory that you're learning into practice. So I'd always say, if you're looking at something that you don't understand with the AAT, then just take a step back and think about why the double entry journal is what it is. For example, what's really happening. So that will help you to further understand the likes of accounting standards, etc. When you're studying. So let's move on to the next question. I have to say, as I'm looking down these comments as well, thank you so much for all the lovely comments. There's so many people who are just, you know, really grateful and have really nice things to say, so that's always really nice to read. Okay, so this one here is from an individual who was working within the retail sector for nearly 14 years in a management role. Their academic background was business and economics, and also a Bachelor of Commerce, and they've done a master's degree from the university, specialising in strategic business information, and have always been thinking about pursuing a career in accounting. However, due to various hurdles, couldn't. They're now 45 and they'd like a little bit of advice of what they need to do. Okay, so again, going back to that point earlier, if you have a qualification, particularly if it's in business and finance or something related to accounting and finance, then you can get exemptions towards the likes of, again, CIMA, CIPFA, ACCA, ACCA. But again, I'd do your research. So what I'd say is, again, it would just depend on what route you want to go down, because there's so many different routes you can go down in accounting and finance, and even at the end of it, you don't necessarily have to work in accounting, you can work in general finance. So it just depends what you really want to do. So if you want to pursue a career in public accounting, where you work for the likes of a government body, then it might be worth you having a look at the likes of CIPFA, which is an accounting qualification that's more specific to the public sector. Alternatively, if you want to work in management accounting, so completing month-end management accounting and taking a more commercial view of the business, for example, then you might benefit from studying CIMA, which is the Chartered Institute of Management Accounting. Now, if you want to go down the more accounting, reporting, financial route, then the likes of ACA or ACCA might be more beneficial as something to study, because ACA is the Association of Chartered Accountants and the ACCA is the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants. So the content that's covered in those qualifications differs ever so slightly from that covered in CIMA. So there's a lot of overlap, but in terms of the likes of detailed accounting standard reporting, that's covered in a lot of detail in the ACA, for example, whereas CIMA is more focused again on the management aspects, the commercial aspects, costing, for example. I think if you were to have a look at those qualifications, then there would most likely be some exemptions that you can take, which means that you don't have to undertake all of the exams within that qualification to get qualified. But what I'll do is I'll put a link to each one of their websites in the description section below, to hopefully help you make that decision. The next comment, do you have a video going through a whole VAT return? So I do have a video going through a VAT return, which I will put a link to again up here for you and in the description section below. However, my next video is going to be a full walkthrough of a VAT reconciliation to a VAT return. So hopefully that will help anybody who's currently looking at indirect tax or looking to learn a little bit more about VAT returns. Now I'm going to end the video there, but for those of you that haven't yet seen, I have created a website recently called financebasics.uk, and on there are quite a few different free to use quizzes to help you with your understanding of accounting and finance, and there's also content links to all of the YouTube videos. So on there you can actually search for a particular YouTube video that you want to watch, and it's also listed by playlist, and there's also various playlists on there for you to look at. So I'll leave a link to that as well up here, and in the description section below. But I hope you found it useful. Thank you so much for watching to the end. Consider subscribing and I shall see you on the next video.